Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm James Milan. I am here for an update from the Arlington Commission on Arts and Culture, ACAC, and here with two of the prominent voices from that group, Stewart Ikeda and Cecily Miller, are joining me as they have in the past. Thank you both for being here.
Hey,
Thank
thanks
you.
for having us, James.
And I know that there is a lot to talk about today because COVID notwithstanding, ACAC has been very busy and people can see the evidence all around them. So let's find out more about what's out there on the streets awaiting folks who are curious and interested. Stewart, why don't you get us started on what people can find all around town these days?
Well, thanks, James, for having us again. Sure, since we last came here to talk to the town, we've been extremely busy with public art, visual art, outdoors, some performing opportunities, but really it's been in the last, I'd say, month and a half. We've just had this explosion of installation activity all around town along the bicycle path, through the cultural district in East Arlington, and increasingly moving out towards the Heights. And so much of this public art activity has been organized by our town public art coordinator or curator, Cecily Miller, and we're so grateful to have her here in town. And the last time we were on here, we talked about the necessity of pivoting and changing our plans and how we approached public art entirely. Cecily's done that wonderfully well, and although it took us a little while to readjust, after months of not putting out much of anything, we have just tons of projects going on along the bike path, and I'd love Cecily to introduce some of these.
Okay, well, the biggest, of course, is persistence, which we started a year ago, essentially, with Michelle Luigi, bringing her to the town to be an artist in residence. And as Stewart said, when COVID struck, the workshops and meetups that we were having largely at the Fox Library, which was our host, but also at places like the Council on Aging, and we were planning one at the Roasted Granola, at the Addison School and the Thompson School. We had plans for 100 scouts to show up and learn how to cut up plarn. All that had to be closed down. But our craftivists persisted, which is where we got our title from. People continued to work on the project at home. We figured out how to quarantine our supplies, and we were able to create a 37-piece installation. Michelle and I went to people's homes to pick up their completed components, and then and people drop things off to Michelle's porch, always COVID safe. And then we had work sessions in Michelle's front yard, open air, masked, social distance, to assemble these components. Largely it was Michelle who did it, but she did get help from Lori Bogdan, a local artist, and Marina Strauss, both stopped in, and her own project intern. So 37 sculptures, about 600 components that Arlington people made, thousands of plastic bags, and it's all up now hanging in trees along the Minuteman Bikeway between the Kickstand Cafe and Linwood Street. And these sculptures that look kind of strange and otherworldly are actually one of the most common things, but normally you need a microscope to see them. They're inspired by the tiny microorganisms that are in all water. So the fact that Spy Pond is right there, Michelle drew inspiration from that to think about, all right, thinking about this major Arlington waterway close by, how about water organisms, which this whole piece is about the dangers of plastics. And part of what happens with plastic is it just breaks down into tinier and tinier pieces, does not biodegrade, until it's the size of a microorganism in water. And from there, it gets into into the food chain.
Yeah, I got to jump in and say that is great. Having talked to you and Michelle a year ago, and knowing that there was a general sense of how things would unfold, and then of course all kinds of extraordinary events have taken place since then to intervene. But what wonderful! I think persistence is a great name. Resilience would have been another great one, because that is what you and Michelle and the project itself and its participants have shown, obviously. And then to end up in this place where we've got 37 pieces to share with the Arlington public. And then to hear about that connection between them being really actually, microscopic organisms that you can find in the ocean, and then expanded out in size so that they make these very compelling and really eye-catching figures in the trees. It's a great success. Congratulations.
Yeah, and the title Persistence is a pun because plastic also persists in the natural environment. So we have the positive side of persistence, which is all of the wonderful volunteers who made this possible, and our wonderful artist, Michelle, as a leader, and all of our partners. And then we have the downside of persistence, which is plastic never goes away, essentially. And we'll all need persistence to fight that on the environmental front, to continue to steward our environment and reduce plastic pollution.
And let me throw it back to you, Stewart, just to describe a couple of other projects that I know that people can find around the bike path and in other corridors, and that I'm curious about as well. The Go Outdoors, and also I know we documented at ACMi News the fact that Colonies, a public art piece that came down, has actually been also replaced in a sense by others. So tell us about that.
It's had children.
It's had children, and in fact, the artist Christopher Frost, I believe he worked with his children to create the pieces, right? Cecily?
Actually, his adult daughter, yeah, his daughter who was home from college.
Yeah, that was nice that she could participate. Sure, of course, by this point, almost everyone in Arlington who's been on the bike path for the past 2 years has come to know and love Colony. Many of us have left little creatures in there and helped decorate the thing. It's really a beloved sculpture, and it was time to come down. As Cecily knows, Christopher had to repair it a number of times. It's been out for almost 2 years, I think. And also the tree was growing, right? So it had to be removed. The consolation for losing this beloved piece is that he did create 2 new mini colonies in different locations, one at Linwood and one that's right by the stairs going down to the playground in Spy Pond. So encourage everyone to go out and visit those. Cecily, do you have any additions?
I just wanted to say that because of COVID, we couldn't really have a big celebration for him when the original colony came down. But Dave Harris, who is a local jazz musician and served for a while on the grants committee of the commission, came and he plays trombone. And so he serenaded Chris while Chris was taking it down with appropriate songs like I'll Fly Away. And every person who passed by had something to say. Many of them said, I've enjoyed this every day on my walk, or, I just find this so inspiring to see this. And there were people who were discovering it for the first time because they were visiting from another town. So he really expressed that it's been a joy for him to have this work in Arlington because of the outpouring of community affection and appreciation for it. So.
Sure. And the other project, as you alluded to, is the Go Outdoors Neighbors. And it's really a preview of what will become a much larger regional exhibition starting next spring and go into well into 2021. There are 3 new artfully painted doors that have been installed around town on the bikeway. It is based on a project that originated with the Umbrella Art Center for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail out in West Concord this summer, called Go Outdoors. And that in turn was inspired by the En Plein Air exhibition on New York City's High Line. And it's nature themed painted doors that are installed on walking and biking paths with the intent to really, it was to help people reconnect with nature, to engage in healthful outdoor activities along biking paths and not drive so much, especially as we were emerging from the isolation of the pandemic this summer. Since it was installed in West Concord, it's been extended to a similar format in neighboring towns. Right now, the exhibition is in 3 towns, in Lexington, Arlington, and Concord, in 3 cultural districts, the West Concord Cultural District, the Concord Center, and the Arlington Cultural District, and installed at 3 visitor centers in the town. In each town, and really, it's intended to also promote intertown tourism and neighborliness at this time when so many of our towns and our businesses were suffering from a lack of traffic and lack of out-of-state tourism and so forth. We really wanted to promote visiting each other as neighbors and mutually promoting each other's towns. So right now in Arlington, the first 3, and there are many more that are being commissioned for reinstallation in the spring, but the first 3 are at Uncle Sam Visitors Center Plaza with a door called We Are Stardust by Adria Arch. The second door is in by Bow Street, entrance of the bike path right behind Old Schwam Mill. And that's a door by Laurie Bogdan, one of the members of Art Links Arlington. And the third one is a collaborative door that Laurie did with Jason Rudikas, another member of Art Links Arlington. And that was really for that organization. So we encourage people to go out and enjoy these. They are spaced far apart and allowing social distancing while enjoying them. So grab a blue bike and go out and visit them. Eventually, the plan is that you'll be able to ride through this installation all the way up to Minuteman Park, up through Lexington and Bedford, down the Reformatory Bikeway, out to the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. You could have all these towns connected by art. And there are other towns that are planning to install them in the spring as well.
Great. So Arlington and beyond for this particular project. And there's one more public art exhibit that people can see. And I have to say, I have seen, I pass it relatively regularly because I live in the Jason Street area. But that is an exhibition that people can see in front of or around the Jason Russell House. Why don't you tell us about that, Cecily?
So this was an expansion for us. We were thinking at one point of including this in our Pathways kind of portfolio, I guess you could say. And we were a little concerned that maybe these kind of ghostly figures might startle people who are biking on the Minuteman, and that maybe that wasn't the best site for it. And it actually was a suggestion of Jenny Raitt, the director of planning, to approach the Historical Society and consider the Jason Russell House, which is a perfect location because these pieces are sculptural garments created by Leslie Wilcox, and they're inspired by historic fashion. And they really are a meditation on who were the people who used to wander these grounds, who were the generations of a family that lived in this house. And are their spirits still with us? You know, these pieces do ask that question. Maybe the spirits from the past have gathered together on the lawn of the Jason Russell House for a for a kind of tea party.
Mhm.
And at the same time, they're also an embodiment of the spirit of the tree that they wrap around. And this is part of the reason that the title of this installation is Arboreal Attire. It's referring both to historic costuming and the presence of people, but also what about the powerful spirits that live in trees? And Jason Russell House has some amazing trees on its small patch of ground. So that actually was installed almost a year ago, but we've never really talked about it with you folks. And I thought it would be great to bring it to attention for people who are wondering, what the heck is that in the Jason Russell House? And I'll mention that there's a really good sign there that has a description of the inspiration for each sculpture, like what type of clothing it refers to, and a reminiscence by one of the, well, not really reminiscence, but kind of putting the whole exhibition into context by one of the board members of the Historical Society, and a fabulous poem that Jessie Brown wrote. Jessie lives on Jason Street, also walks through the grounds with her dog Ruby frequently, and met Leslie when she was doing installation and hit it off, and they were talking about the artwork. And you know, I think Jessie loves to do these projects that combine art and poetry, art and words. She's collaborated with Adria Arch on pieces that we've also shown in public places. And so Jessie wrote a poem specifically inspired by arboreal attire, and that's also on this large sign on the site. So if people go to check it out, definitely take a look at that interpretive material.
I'll just add in one last thing, which is, you know, I pass by there on foot and in my car regularly, as I mentioned, and I have literally seen this happen quite a bit. It really does, you know, draw people's attention and make them go, what? And, you know, hopefully those who are in their cars will come back at some point on foot and really investigate. It's well worth it.
Well, I'll just mention that I first met Leslie when I worked for many years at Forest Hill Cemetery, which is a beautiful garden style cemetery. And I organized contemporary art exhibitions in the grounds. And that was a very interesting site to be evoking the past with these ghostly presences. But I think everyone would agree they're not at all sinister. They're really about bringing the past into the present, as well as, you know, thinking about what are the mysterious spirits of nature.
Right. Yes, I should make clear, it's not, no, it's just,
well,
just curiosity. There's a little...
Leslie and I have had many debates about whether they are ghosts or spirits. So
yeah. Anyway, it is somewhat startling, and there you've had an explanation both of the origin and of how you can find out more by consulting the signage that is there. So, encouraging people to do that. I want to move on though. Obviously, I think everybody's aware the Arlington Commission on Arts and Culture is a sponsoring organization and a producer of, you know, or a facilitator of public art around town. That's what we've just been talking about. But there are other functions that the ACAC, vital and essential functions that ACAC performs. And I think that, you know, the next several projects we're going to talk about here will illustrate again, another of the ways in which ACAC is an important piece of the Arlington landscape. So I think, Stewart, perhaps you'll tell us about the various banners that people can find also in and around the area.
Sure, I'd love to. Last time we were here with you, we had spoken about the importance for the commission in really focusing on creating an infrastructure to better serve the town's needs in terms of arts and culture, not just doing our own original programming, but really making a sustainable environment where arts could thrive, and especially in times of COVID. We work as to service other aspects of the town. So some of the things we've been doing, for example, have been supporting the town's parklets project that is to support the local retail businesses. You've been seeing the Jersey barriers go up around town this fall, and we have been luckily able to connect uh, the town planning department with artists to provide opportunities for artists to create mural art, to illustrate these, make them feel more welcoming, inviting, really underscore the Arlington community spirit of it. Most recently, a dynamic young artist named Maria Lobo approached us, approached the town commission because she had gotten an external grant from Generation 180, which is dedicated to clean energy and promoting clean energy. And she applied for the grant and won it, and had recently relocated back to the town and didn't have a place to display it. Fortunately, she, took the initiative to reach out and find the Arts Commission and reach out to us, and we were able to connect her with the parklet. And she has a new clean energy banner over there by Lucky Dragon in the center. And then another opportunity for another parklet came up, and she was able to, with Cecily's assistance and guidance, plan a wonderful wheat paste mural, which we just installed this past week, and another parklet over by Alton Street. And these create these wonderful picnic areas where people can still be outdoors and in relative safety.
Yeah,
These,
there's actually
Mhm.
one more parklet in the planning stage right now, which is Adria Arch and some of the volunteers who've been involved in the planning effort for Arlington Heights and me are going to paint with stencils a colorful design on the parklet that's in Arlington Heights. And that parklet unfortunately has two empty storefronts edging it, which is a little, sad and depressing for everyone that these storefronts are, sit vacant. And so we're really going to use bright color to try to make that area much more cheerful and really support the work that Ali Carter's been doing to create these inviting areas for people to sit outside during COVID times.
I'd observe, and that in the spring, we've even been looking into creating some performing spaces or platforms in some of these parklets, because we know this is not going to go away. It's not going to be business as usual come the spring. So much of what we're doing now is planning to build on what we've learned about how to create outdoor venues and opportunities for artists to connect with the community outdoors safely. This year, the town had issued a temporary use of public spaces of parks for instructional purposes. Um, Yoga classes, boot camp classes, and so forth. And it was consistent with work we had been doing prior, trying to create more performance and public art exhibition opportunities through busking for the town pre-COVID. It was consistent with that work that uh, the commission was able to work with town planning to provide opportunities for performing artists to say perform classes. One of those was the Odaiko Japanese drumming group. Um, they had just moved into a new space under the Regent Underground and were, shut down by COVID, couldn't teach classes anymore, couldn't make any revenue. Performing artists have really been suffering through this time. And we were grateful to be able to help them find outdoor venues to at least continue to meet, rehearse, teach classes. I personally took a class out in Robbins Memorial Garden Park this summer. It was wonderful. So now we're anticipating this COVID is not going to be gone in the spring. So we're really trying to refine that and to see, can we find more opportunities to safely allow both performing artists and visual artists too, to be able to share their work in a safe way. So we're working on safety guidelines and application procedures. Those are some of the things we're doing behind the scenes so that when we're all emerging again from a long cold winter, hopefully the infrastructure will be there that artists will be able to do what they do again in public.
And dare I say, about Odaico, about performers of other sorts, about the parklet that you were just mentioning, Cecily, up in the Heights. Dare I say that even if we are not dealing with COVID type constraints, come the good weather, maybe people are just going to want to migrate out to those spaces anyway.
Yeah,
Especially when they're made very attractive by public art and performances happening in the area.
I was talking with the owners of Roasted Granola and also the owners of Kickstand, who've kind of increased their outdoor seating. But the Roasted Granola folks there's a parklet in front of their cafe, and they are very much hoping, and I think the town is hoping, to keep that outdoor seating, even though it means losing a few parking spaces. It's it's such a pleasure for people to be able to meet and mingle outside and run into neighbors as they're walking down the street, running errands. And so the hope is that may be an innovation that will be here to stay.
Yeah, I can really imagine that happening. We are close to out of time. Before we are, let's find out about a few deadlines that are looming for different opportunities that are coming up.
Sure. Well, I did want to share with artists out there the news that the deadline for the Mass Cultural Council artist grants has been extended until December 7th. So it's still not too late to get a proposal into the Mass Cultural Council. The High School Youth Banners Project has a call for submissions, and that deadline is coming up December 18th. And the new Fox and Owl Film Festival actually has been extended into the winter as well. Cecily can say more about that, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that we want to do a final call to kids and families and adults in Arlington for drawings. We're still, of course, taking videos if people are into a more complicated production, but we really want to collect some wonderful drawings of foxes, owls, use your imagination, or other animal neighbors, other urban wildlife. And we're kind of cooking up an idea to have a scavenger hunt to find people's completed videos instead of, they will still be online, but emphasizing that you need to maybe follow some clues and there'll be a QR code and then you'll be able to watch a movie somewhere out in the world of Arlington.
That's great. Let me ask you just very quickly if there's anything that needs mentioning that we haven't covered. We've just got a couple of minutes left.
I want to make one quick comment, which is it's notable to me how many of the artworks are about environmentalism. Lori Bogdan's door with Jason,
Roticus.
Yeah, it's both of them are actually volunteers, occasional volunteers with the art group with Extinction Rebellion, and their door has an environmental theme. The Wheat Paste and Banner project are about, the banner is about clean energy. And of course, Michelle's project, one of the things I wanted to say is we've engaged the Green Team to do all this research, which they're dedicated to all year round, figuring out how we can compost our pumpkins and how we can reduce plastic waste. So it's interesting to see how this value of environmentalism is, so widespread and shared in Arlington. You see it cropping up in the public art.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say, from the commission's perspective, we're We are delighted to have welcomed several new members since we were last checking in with you. New commissioners, new committee members, people assigned to specific projects who are helping to install artwork. If anyone would like to be involved with us, we'd welcome you. Please reach out to us. We've also been very pleased to be able to respond to several local organizations and businesses that have wanted our help to connect with artists for their own projects. If you would like to sponsor a transformer box to be painted, by your business, reach out to us. We've been able to help JCC install a banner that they did with the artist Sarah Peedy, and over Ready Set Kids. And other organizations, businesses have reached out to us to who are interested in commissioning artists. So I just say we're here. We're as a resource for all of the town to help connect it with art. So please reach out to us. Feel free to come to a meeting, join a committee. We'd love to have you, and we need your support to keep this environment rich with art.
And rich with art it is. We promised a full agenda at the beginning of this conversation, and boy, you guys delivered. It's great to speak about wonderful, kind of lasting, life-affirming things at this time. And as we enter the winter, we'll have the prospect of these to help us endure and also to be there on the other side. I have been talking with Stewart Ikeda and Cecily Miller from the Arlington Commission for Arts on Arts and Culture, ACAC. This is a regular update, and we will see you guys again in another few months and have much more to talk about, I'm sure. For now, this is Talk of the Town, and I'm James Milan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.